Okay, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker. I had the opportunity to have an interview with her and Alan, and we've talked before as well. So it's so good to have you with us. And I want to tell you a little bit about Claire. So Claire is a two-time #1 international bestseller author through Amazon in the US, the UK, Canada, Germany, and Austria, and the creator and the host of her weekly radio show, Angel Healing House. In 2003, she established her business, Angel Healing House, through which she utilizes her gifts as a Reiki Master, teacher, a healing practitioner, an intuitive coach, and a channel to help people live their authentic lives. Since her angelic walk-in experience in January of 2003, Claire continues to help people to connect with their divine eternal presence. And I'm going to stop there because I really want people to hear your story and hear where you're coming from. So thank you so much for being with us. I really appreciate it.
It's lovely to be here, Sheila. Thank you so much for inviting me to this very esteemed and very diverse platform, to bring forth different, very individualized experiences, because a walk-in, although we share many endemic characteristics, it is so individualized for each and every person. So I want to say thank you so much for having me a part of this this wonderful conference today. Thank you. And I want to say welcome to everyone. And yes, my name is Claire Candy Hough, but my name is just as much Angel Ariel, as I had an angelic walk-in experience on January 11th of 2003. And everyone, that was when the emotionally tortured, deeply saddened former soul of Claire Candy, who was formerly in this body, she got her unconscious wish fulfilled, which she asked every day to exit her very traumatic life. And she got her wish to end her human contract early, and I, Angel Ariel, stepped in to take over her responsibilities to clean up her life so that I could get on with my mission to be of service to humanity at this very crucial time in Earth's ascension. Now, in my #1 Amazon International best-selling book, I am an angelic walk-in, the autobiography of Angel Ariel. I not only authentically and openly share my remarkable journey, but I've since realized that it's just so much more than a story, because within this book, it sheds a light as it helps others with the information that they might need, because they believe that they've had a walk-in experience as well. In fact, I wish that I would have found my book 20 years ago when I was lost and dazed and confused as I bumped around, having incarnated back into physical form. That was in 2003, into the third dimension. And I came in from my home in the 12th dimension in the angelic realm. Now, it's very important to note, everyone, that as we know from this conference, not all walk-ins are angels. Many of them come from star nations and galaxies and planets, but there are some also who are highly advanced spirit guides that want to come back and be of service to humanity. But no matter where walk-ins come from, we all bring more light and love to the planet. And probably the most well-known walk-in that returned to physical incarnation was the Ascended Master, Lord Sananda, or Yeshua, as he was called, as he was known, and he brought so much love and light to the planet. Now, the world has vastly changed since I incarnated in human form, and words such as Reiki and starseeds and walk-ins are known by many people because there's so much information on the internet. But you know, everyone, this was not the case 20 years ago. when the computer was in its infancy. I remember dial-up and the world was definitely only third dimension. My presentation today will be in 3 parts. The first part is going to be about my remarkable story and the synchronicities, serendipity, and absolute miracles that happened. The second part, I will impart my experience over the last 20 years that has helped, as I've counseled many people through my business, Angel Healing House. I've counseled many walk-ins to make their transition into this human form one of ease and grace for them. And the third part of my presentation will be a meditation activation to take everyone on a short journey to my home in the 12th dimension, to the Crystalline Healing Temple, which I take people to in my sessions, my Angel Healing House healing sessions, so that they can remember their divine eternal natures. Now, let me set the scene for you. The former soul of Candy at the age of 46 was gaunt. She was harried. She was anorexic and suicidal. She was actually devoid of self-worth and self-love. And this is not a particularly good recipe for being on the earth plane. She was born in the 1950s when women were denigrated. They were degraded by men. And in her Orthodox religion, they lauded the sons and they downgraded and belittled the talents of the daughters. And she was then programmed to diminish her talents and put all of her efforts solely into her looks so that she could marry somebody rich and produce many children. She did marry rich. She married a rich, mentally and emotionally abusive man who denigrated and controlled her for 26 years. Now, after her second unsuccessful suicide attempt, she was absolutely sure that if she did not leave him, her third attempt would certainly be the charm. Gathering what little strength she had left, she walked out of that wealthy life. And you know, everyone, she basically went from the frying pan into the fire. She didn't realize that the power to change her life was inside of her. And she didn't do any self-reflection. She didn't do any healing work, but rather she sought someone to save her. And what manifested was somebody so much worse than her abusive ex. She drew to herself a young, handsome Italian man, and he was an ex-Chippendale dancer, except where she was living in Australia, they don't call them Chippendale dancers. He was from the troupe, the Thunder Down Under. Yes, the ones that strip for money. He had a great talent, not only for dancing, but he had a great propensity for attaching himself to rich, older, newly divorced women. And he talked the former soul of Candy into buying a great investment property, an unrenovated, cockroach-infested, termite house that was 1 block away from the ocean. He swore up and down, with his background as a builder, that he would renovate it, or renovate it and they live in it, or renovate it and sell it for a big profit. He also talked her into buying a coffee shop with the rest of her money so that they could work together in a business. Isn't that lovely? Sounded wonderful. But once she financed these 2 endeavors, he not only refused to work, he began a never-ending spending spree of stealing money from the cafe and disappearing for long stretches of time. Now, the responsibilities of running this shop lay solely on Candy's very fragile shoulders, and the constant stress saw her smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day and drinking lots of black espresso coffees from her coffee shop. Her weight hovered around 100 pounds. She was emaciated and she looked like a skeleton. But you know, everyone, when we are at our lowest, God source creator who never gives up on us sends us angels. It was one day while she was running back and forth and carrying orders to a full cafe, she was stopped by one of her regular customers. He was a soft-spoken, peaceful man from Sri Lanka, and his name was Tyrone. He said, "Candy, you look so stressed. It would help you greatly to be peaceful if you just meditated." Throwing back her head in laughter, she replied, "Well, thank you, Tyrone, but I don't have time to shave my head, don orange robes, sit in a cave, eat brown rice, and chant Om." Disregarding his suggestion, she ran off to fill more orders. In the days to follow, she noticed her hands were trembling and her breathing had become very labored. And then she thought more about Tyrone's suggestion for peace, and she started meditating. Now, over this next 6 weeks, she returned to her cockroach-infested home without a clue where her wayward boyfriend was, and she dragged herself to her bedroom and the sweet little meditation corner she'd created. Now, even though she read a book on meditation, she never got any more than a few minutes peace before the monkey mind chatter came in and would envelop her like a swarm of bees, stinging her with negative thoughts, how she was a failure, how if she was younger and prettier, her wayward boyfriend would not be seen around the city with sexy younger women. Now it's 6 p.m. with the beautiful rays of sunshine streaming in through the curtainless windows. Candy lit the long taper candles and burned some incense, and she closed her eyes and she steeled herself, getting ready for the swarm of stinging negativity, when suddenly she felt a strange peacefulness and a calm come over her, like an invisible, protective, reassuring blanket. And when I opened my eyes, the room was completely black. The long taper candles, they'd completely burned down in a very short space of time. And I thought this was so strange, as it was summertime on the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia. And at 6:30, there should have been plenty of time, plenty of light left because it was summertime. But that was not the case. The room was completely black. I looked over the light at the digital clock and it said 11:11. I had no idea where the last 4 hours had gone, but I felt dizzy and disoriented. But I knew that I had to be at the cafe at 7 a.m. to open, and I was very shaky and I went to sleep. Upon waking the very next morning, I got a sense that I was waking up in a nightmare. Firstly, I looked around at these deplorable conditions I was living in, and I said, who would live in these squalid conditions? When I walked into the bathroom, I recoiled in horror from the rust, the peeling wallpaper, the tiles falling off the ceiling. I looked in the closet and I said, whose clothes are these? I tried to piece something together that was more my taste. And in the kitchen, when I went to get something to eat, I was horrified. There were old pizza boxes and old fast food and sodas with high fructose corn syrup. There was nothing of nutritional value. Grabbing my bag and walking and just wanting to escape from this house of horrors, opening the door, I remember walking outside, and it was like seeing colors for the first time in my life, and it brought tears to my eyes. The only way I can describe it, everyone, is when Dorothy opens her door from her black and white world to the colors of Oz. The reason for this is that I was no longer looking through the lower negative frequencies of Candy, who created and manifested the House of Horrors. I was seeing the world through divine perfection and the gratitude for God's blessings. It was I, Angel Ariel, who was seeing the world, but I didn't know that I was Angel Ariel. Although I felt very different, I had no idea that I'd had a walk-in experience. I'd never heard of the term before. Remember, this is 20 years ago. I often say that walk-ins don't come in with a handbook tied around our toes. Not only was I different, my staff at the coffee shop, along with friends, commented how my whole demeanor had changed from being stressed out to one of being calm and peaceful and happy. Whereas before everything seemed to matter, it was almost like there was this blanket of tranquility around me, assuring me that everything would be taken care of. The reason for this was that while I had inherited Candy's mental imprint, it's sort of like a computer chip in Candy's brain to recall how to speak, to talk, to walk, to remember her memories. I, like many walk-ins, did not inherit the former soul's emotional imprint, which would stop the walk-ins like us from solving the former soul's insurmountable problems for them, so that we can clean up their life, so that we can be free to get on with our missions. Now, over the next 3 months, without knowing it, I began to exhibit many of the characteristics that are endemic to many walk-ins. Firstly, walk-ins often change their name as they do not resonate with the former soul's name. Now, I started calling myself at 46, I started calling myself my full name, Claire Candy. Before the walk-in, if anyone called me Claire, I would have stated that I hated that name. But I found that with the clairvoyancy, the clairsentient, the clairaudient, the claircognizant, they all tumbled in. I embraced my name Claire again. Now, many people have asked me why I just don't call myself Angel Ariel, and I still call myself Claire Candy out of respect for the former soul and her family. After all, she did provide me with this vehicle to be of service to humanity. Now, previous to the walk-in experience, I really had no idea what my purpose in life was, but I soon was crystal clear. I was here to help people to heal, not to heal them because everyone heals in and of themselves, but to ease their pain, their suffering, and to enlighten them to their own beauty, their own magnificence, and their own power, and to help them to connect with their divine eternal natures. For almost 20 years, the mission statement for my Angel Healing House healing practice is not to teach others, because we're all born with that ancient wisdom, but to help them to remember their divinity. I became aware of a change in my personality, my characteristics, my attitudes, this drastic change in my tastes, in my clothes, and in my food and music. I now found that my soul resonated with Scottish and Irish and Celtic music. The former soul was a Jewish girl. So in my award-winning book, One True Home, Behind the Veil of Forgetfulness, I speak about my 5 most important lives as I grew the most spiritually. And one of my favorite lives was as a healer in 14th century Scotland. And it was one of my favorites because I empowered the serfdom in which I lived. I taught them how to listen to their intuition and to be empowered and not to give their power away to authority. But unfortunately, the church didn't agree with this. They deemed me to be a witch, and it's a spoiler if you're going to read the book, but they had me bonfired at the stake. Now, another characteristics of walk-ins is because of the tremendous light that we are holding, we seem to get younger as we age. I began to see a tremendous change in my physical appearance as the deep etched wrinkles on my face and pools of darkness below my eyes and dark liver spots on my hands and my face, they started to disappear. And this is because the light that was emitting from inside of me. I turned 66 years of age last year. Now, after a lifetime of Candy previously being too timid to stand up for herself, I separated from the relationship, the shop, the house of horrors, and I started learning Reiki. I went on to complete all levels, including 2 master teacher degrees in a very short amount of time, got a business license, and I established my angel healing house practice. Now, people started to be magnetically drawn to me. Yet everyone with all of this, I was no closer to discovering what the heck had happened to me. So I decided to start researching in bookstores. And that is where I found and discovered my lovely friend and intuitive, Robin, who was the manager of one of these stores. So when I was explaining to her what had happened to me, she said, you know, I'm really not surprised. The first time you walked into my store, I watched in absolute awe as there was an intense beam of light over your head that was following you into the store. She said, I don't know what you've been through, but I do know of someone who can help you. His name is Patrick Moore, and he's an international, highly sought after psychic. The good news is he only lives 20 minutes from where you live. He works 20 minutes from where you live. But she said, the bad news is he's impossible to get a session with. But my guides are telling me that no matter how long it is that you have to wait, you need to call him. So she then added, if you can't get to see him for months or maybe a year, I also know a healer who just returned from working with the healers in the Philippines. You know, those ones that go into the body and extract the dis-ease from the body. She said, he'll be able to help you as well. So I called John Chamberlain and got an appointment with him in 2 days' time. Didn't tell him anything, what I'd gone through. And then I decided to call Patrick and to see whenever I could book an appointment. Well, when I phoned the number, the gentleman that answered the phone threw his head back and he laughed and he said, you must be the luckiest girl in the world. Once someone schedules an appointment with Patrick Moore, hardly anybody ever cancels. But a few moments ago, right before your call, somebody canceled. Can you be here in an hour? An hour later, everyone, I walked into Tarot Lodge and was led to a back room. Patrick was sitting behind a desk. And when he saw me, his eyes grew as large as saucers. And he stood up, he came around the desk, and he took both of my hands in his, and he said, welcome back, beloved lady. You must be so confused. Let me make you a cup of tea and tell you what had happened. Without saying one word to him, he told me what had happened over the last 3 months. And then he said, you are an angel. Come back to the earth. Do you know that you've had a walk-in experience? I was crying tears of joy, having been given confirmation on what had happened to me. And then he took my hands in his once again, and he said, look at the wisdom of the ages written on your hands. You've come back to reawaken and touch countless lives with them. Then he looked at his own hands and he sighed, I'm but a lonely dragon from the dragon realm. There's not much written on my hands, but dragons and angels are the best of friends. We've done this dance before in many incarnations. This is just another dance that we are doing. At the end of the session, he said, oh, you're going to meet your twin flame, and you two will bring forth such wonderful blessings of love for the new world to come. To this day, Patrick and I are the best of friends. Now, everyone, just because someone tells you something does not make it correct, no matter what the confirmation is. So 2 days later, I rang John Chamberlain's doorbell. I kept that session with him. And when I walked into his apartment, he said, whoa, look at all the angels around you. I've never seen anyone with that many angels. Hold on. They're saying you're one of them. Do you know that you are an angel? and have had a walk-in experience. Now, after receiving this double confirmation, I went to bed that night, joyful, yet emotionally drained and exhausted. At 2:22, I was awakened by a bright glow of light in my room, and tall shards of angels were standing around the circumference of my room, and they spoke as a combined voice and said, "Greetings, beloved Angel Ariel. We are your angelic family, the posse of angels. We number 537, including you. The number of the posse of angels will not change, as it must hold that vibration and specific energy. 5 is the number of challenge and changing people's perception of what is possible. 3 is the number of creation and miracles. And 7 is the number of doing the work of God's source creator, the divine. We will be with you for the duration of the time that you're in this earthly form." Now, over the next months, I spent a great time adjusting to being in this human form. And one of the hardest things for me to remember, this was an anorexic body, was to eat. I would go days and days, sometimes up to a week, not eating. And as I don't eat where I come from in the 12th dimension, which made my weight drop even more dramatically. But it was during this time that I remembered Patrick's words of being reunited with my twin flame. And it was then that I told God that I was worthy of a beautiful relationship. And I wrote this decree to God. I wrote, "Thank you for my twin flame relationship and marriage." Now, everyone, I did not write the second line. The pen wrote, "I live in a comfortable home near the ocean." Now, I certainly didn't have the money. After the thunder down under man fleeced me, to own an oceanfront home, I wrote that we worked together, myself and my twin flame, that we traveled the world together. We were the best of friends. Nothing was more important than this relationship. I wrote down the kind, gentle, loving attributes which I wanted my new husband to have. I slept with it under my pillow. And I read it out every morning and every evening. And I felt what it would felt like to laugh together, to snuggle together, to be the best of friends and the best connection. But more importantly, I started to allow myself to have fun, to be playful and be creative. I met a friend for coffee and I said, "I don't know why this is, but I want to start my craft work again. And I want to learn the art of silk flower ribbon making." I don't know where that came from, but she said, "That's very strange. There's a new sewing shop. It just opened up 2 blocks from here. Let's go and take lessons together." So we signed up designs made, but I wanted to have them made into pillows. And I don't know one end of from a sewing machine from another. And she said, "There's a dressmaker very close to your apartment." And she sent me to this dressmaker. When I walked into the dressmaker's shop, I said, "How long to make these into pillows?" And she said, "That's easy. It'll only be 3 days." She said, "Just give me your details." So I handed her my brochure and she looked and she went, "Oh my gosh, you're a Reiki practitioner?" She said, "My friends and I have been looking for a Reiki practitioner. Do you have more brochures that you can leave in your shop?" So I did. And 3 days later, I went back and the pillows were not done, but they were not completed. She said, "I'm so sorry, but do you have more brochures that you can give to me?" Now, over the following weeks, I went back time and time again, and every time there was a different excuse why she had not finished the pillows. Deciding not to stress about their completion, I turned my attention to a more pressing matter of finance. You see, my beloved angelic family, the posse of angels, had protected me so well that they delayed a large sum of money that came to me only after I separated and I split from Mr. Thunder Down Under, and I sought help from a recommended financial advisor about investing the money. Now, luckily, this financial advisor had two offices, one close by me and the other was an hour away. And the day before the appointment, he called up and said, "I'm sorry, I'm not going to be at my nearby, the office near to you. Can you travel an hour to see me?" This was not an urgent appointment, but something urged me to keep that appointment and to drive an hour to see him. So I went. He was giving me all kinds of advice on how to invest the money, but my attention kept going outside the window to promotional signs and flags that were waving in the breeze to a new shopping mall that was across the road. So after this lovely meeting with this man, I gathered all the information, I thanked him, and I felt magnetized to go to this shopping mall. Now, just to give you a little bit of a heads up, in Australia, all malls have a basement level or a lower level where there are services like a grocery store, a Medicare office, a post office, a butcher, a fruit and vegetable seller, and all of the upper levels are retail. Even though I was eager to go check out the retail stores, for some reason, when I got in the elevator, my finger was pushed to the basement. And when that opened, the basement door opened, at the end of the corridor, there were Tibetan flags, and there was a sign that said, "Your divine destiny." Magnetized, I was drawn to this New Age shop. And when I walked in, the girl behind the counter said to me, "Hello, you're right on time for your reading with Mirabelle. She'll be out in a second." As if on cue, out of a back room came a large woman wearing a scarf around her head, and she signaled for me to come sit down at her table. She picked up her tarot cards and was shuffling them and was looking at me as if fire was glowing in her eyes. And she said, "You are not of the earth. You have returned from a great distance. You are an angel in human form." Turning over a few cards and glancing at them, she said, "Oh, and I see here too that you're supposed to be meeting your twin flame." I was like a giddy child and giggled excitedly. Suddenly there was like a black shroud that came over her face. And she said, "Oh my gosh." She said, "But sadly, this will never happen because in your emaciated condition, he'll not be able to see you. He prefers women with some meat on their bones." I started to tremble and said, "Mirabelle, what can I do?" She thought and she said, "They're saying go home, eat, gain weight. Then and only then will he be able to connect with you." And then I said, "Are there any other messages?" She said, "No. Once you meet your twin flame, everything else will fall into place." Reaching into my wallet, I asked her, "How much do I owe you for this reading?" And she replied and laughed, "For you, there is no charge." From that moment, everyone, I started to stuff food in my mouth, and I ate and I ate. And after 2.5 months, I remembered about those pillows. I went back, hopefully to pick them up, and they still were not done. The dressmaker was so apologetic. And she said, "You know, you're so patient and kind. My friends absolutely adore their Reiki sessions with you." She then said, "Would you like to come to my party this coming Saturday night?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "But there is a catch. It's a come as your favorite rock star party." So I found a purple top, a beautiful amethyst necklace. I put flowers in my hair. And of course, I went as Stevie Nicks. There I am, big smile. And as I sat there, out of about 100 people, I only knew the dressmaker. And as I sat there, I thought to myself, well, if nothing happens in a half an hour, I'll just leave and grab a DVD on the way home, and that'll be that. But in a half an hour, at the stroke of 7 o'clock, who walked in to the Come As Your Favorite Rock Star party, but the only Elvis out of 100 people? He was wearing the white jumpsuit, the aviator glasses, the pompadour hair, the red cape, and the gold buckle. And when Pete walked in to the party, he knew a lot of people on the right side. There was only one straggler's table on the left, and he said he couldn't move his feet. He felt like his feet were in cement. Somebody at my table said, yo, Elvis is in the house. Elvis, grab a chair and come sit at our table. Pete grabbed a chair, sat down next to me. 5 hours later, we were still talking. And 5 days later, everybody, he asked to marry me. And of course, I said yes, as he was everything that I had written in that decree. And oh, by the way, Pete owned a beautiful, comfortable home right next to the ocean, just as the pen wrote. 2 months later, on November 15th, 2003, we got married on the glorious beach in Queensland, Noosa Heads, Queensland. And there we are walking on the beach. But whatever happened to those pillows? Well, it was 6 months later when Pete and I took a trip back down to the Gold Coast where we met and where we were living an hour away on the Sunshine Coast at that stage. And I said to Pete, I want to pick up those pillows. They are so sentimental to me. We walked into the dressmakers and they were still not done. You see, everybody, the dressmaker is Pete's sister-in-law's sister. And it was her engagement party. You just don't invite somebody that you met to your engagement party. It was never about completing the pillows, but arranging the party so that we could meet. Weeks later, I actually took my designs to a sewing center near me and near my home. And I said to the woman, how long to make these into pillows? She said 3 days, and I almost laughed so hard I was apoplectic. But 3 days later, I went back and I picked up my pillows. These are the pillows these are the silk flowers that I learned how to make and design that drew me to my beautiful, beloved Pete. You know, everyone, in 9 short months, because my perception of my world had changed, my reality started to change as well. I became an alchemist, a true magician. Alchemy is not just about changing straw to gold. It is about co-creating your reality in every second of every single day. For the first time at age 46, almost 20 years ago, I allowed myself to dream the kind of life that I wanted, the kind of beloved partner of mine, focusing on it, the work that I do, never losing sight of it. I went about manifesting it to myself. If I can do this in 9 months, anyone can do it. And for the past 20 years, through my business, Angel Healing House, I've helped others to manifest the life of their dreams as well. So in this second part of my presentation, I'd like to share my insights that I have acquired, having walked the walk these past almost 20 years as a very public walk-in, and have helped countless others through my Angel Healing House healing practice to adjust to living in human form as a higher dimensional being. So, firstly, this is really important. No matter what someone says to you, it is you and you alone who can determine as to whether you've had this remarkable experience or not. Now, I am referring to those walk-ins who have also had a braided soul or a partial walk-in experience in which the soul of the human form stays in the body and basically allows another soul to come in, like renting a room, to meld with theirs. Because not all walk-ins have a complete soul exchange like I did. Now, in my book, I am an angelic walk-in. I list some characteristics that are endemic to many walk-ins. As I mentioned, walk-ins often change their names. Walk-ins will often change their professions. They'll go into the healing arts as alternative therapists, Reiki practitioners. The amount of walk-ins that I have attuned to Reiki practitioners and the master teacher degree, there are countless of them. They become spiritual teachers, intuitive counselors. And the interesting part is they are drawn into a life of service, not solely for personal and material and financial gain. And it's interesting to note that they often become very spiritual. Candy, the former soul of Candy, was neither spiritual nor was she religious at all. Many walk-ins will experience a distinct change in their attitudes, their perceptions, their tastes, their personality and characteristics. Many will notice how they start to lighten, how their appearance changes. Not only did those dark etched wrinkles from smoking 2 packs a day start to disappear in the dark liver spots, everything on the body started to lift up. It was just amazing. It's just all this light was regenerating the cells. As walk-ins, we have an inner poise to us. It's a quiet radiance. And people often say to me that they feel regenerated, they feel more peaceful being in our presence. We don't teach as much as initiate changes in living conscious lives of awareness to God, Creator, Source. We lead by example, and we portray an awareness that demonstrates to others that they too can have this. There's no superiority and there's no being better than others. We don't gossip, and as a rule, we do not malign or judge others. Now, walk-ins can fall in love, but as long as there are no entangling alliances to be disturbed, a walk-in would never steal somebody's boyfriend or girlfriend or their husband or their wife. It's just not walk-in. And walk-ins, as walk-ins, we do seem to be working on a dual operational level. You know, we go about our physical, human form, but because we're receiving information I know that I receive information 24/7 on a higher dimensional level. It's like we're dual operational. We do appear to be a bit vague. A lot of the times I'm looking more up, and getting information than I am in being right here, right now in this human form. And as walk-ins, many walk-ins, we know that death is certainly not the end. Now, there are so many walk-ins as I said to Sheila at the beginning, it is such an individualized experience that many walk-ins can probably add to this list that I have in my book. I am an angelic walk-in, but that's a good start for people to see if they have some one or their own to determine whether they've had a walk-in experience or not. The one thing that I always counsel other walk-ins to do, no matter how gung-ho and passionate they are about stepping forth onto their mission, is to take over the former soul's responsibilities and clean up their life. This is actually written into your walk-in soul contract that you wrote with the etheric council that you would do. And in some cases, the darker, more desperate the former soul's life, like the life that Candy lived, the more there will be to clean up. Now, I know this is very difficult for many walk-ins because they're going to have to interact with the former, if the former soul was traumatized or negative in any way, or had darkness upon her, or a demonic power, things living on her. This is going to be very difficult to dismantle that person's life. But in many cases, we have to be laser beam focused. I was able to calmly dismantle and separate from that deceitful boyfriend, from the coffee shop, the hell horror home that I was living in, the negative people that were formerly drawn to that lower dimensional frequency of her trauma and her torture that she had lived all those years of being abused. And I cleaned up her body physically. Now, although initially I was not very good about remembering to eat, the more thorough and careful we are about cleaning up the former soul's responsibilities, then one has less lower dimensional energies affecting one's own energies, and liberates them and frees them to get on with their soul's mission, with the walk-ins mission that they've come back to be of service to humanity. So you want to make sure that the former soul's responsibilities are taken over. Now, it's much easier with friends than it is with family. But please note, in the case of family, I was always respectful and honoring and kind and considerate, but I quickly taught her family my new rules when it came to honoring and respecting my beliefs, my thoughts, and my opinions. Unlike the former soul, I was excellent when it came to establishing boundaries with kindness and consideration, and showing and demonstrating how I wish to be respected and treated. Now, the posse of angels and I cannot stress enough how it is tantamount to clean up the former soul's diet. It took me 9 months to stop smoking. Now, in order to have the energy that you will need for your mission here on planet Earth, and to support the higher frequencies in the body, you will need to elevate the energies. And because the body now reads the Food and Drug Administration's approved toxins of artificial coloring, flavoring, preservatives, additives, chemicals, fluoride, GMOs, the high frequency in the body reads this as poison. And with the light frequency and the higher light frequency within the physical form, it's important to care for it with organics, green chlorophyll, superfoods, vitamins, supplements, filtered water. Remember that we're going from carbon-based to crystalline human forms. Now, in addition to cleaning the body physically, I can't stress this enough, we need to make sure that we do not default to the former soul's unresolved triggers of the past, to their anger, sadness, resentment, regret, bitterness, guilt, shame, blame, and judgment. So to mentally and emotionally bring all aspects of the former soul's life into alignment, it is vastly important to follow the 5 most important tenets or principles that my business Angel Healing House is built on. The first one is responsibility. The first tenet, responsibility, we take responsibility and accountability for choosing each and every one of these people that we've ever met to be present in our life, no matter what they've done, and we alone wrote them into our contract. Bless each and every one of these people, no matter what they did. And this lets go of any negative attachment or blame or being a victim that we might have. Learn to detach and lighten the burden on your soul. Once we take responsibility, then you can honor your divinity and won't allow negativity from the past to drain your beautiful light energies to get on with your mission. So once we take responsibility, the second important tenet flows in very easily, and that is forgiveness. The second is truly to forgive another person. And we do this by saying, please forgive me, not I forgive you, because I forgive you still apportions blame. So once we do this, it lightens us and we're not holding on to resentment or being a victim. We are reflections for our world, and what we feel and we ask for another, we feel and then take on ourselves. The third tenet is non-judgment. All we are is the sum total of our choices, and it's neither good nor bad, nor right or wrong. Once you are without judgment, then the third tenet is fully realized. This is detachment from anything external. You become you are in the world, but you are not of it, as you are a multidimensional, powerful, sovereign being. And a walk-in is then dual operational on the earth plane, and yet also being a part of the higher dimensions. The fourth is gratitude, the deep, profound feeling of gratitude for our many blessings, and that everything that we've been given has been gifted to us by Creator God Source. It's one of the highest frequencies that we can hold in the universe. And the next important tenet, and some people say it is the most important, is unconditional love for all others and ourselves. Now, this is especially for those who have harmed, have hurt, or abused us in any way. And we realize that we and we alone wrote them into the contract of our life. So again, there is no blame. We start to see it from an angel's perspective. They don't need our hatred, our blame, or our scorn. For them to have acted in this way, their inner child was so traumatized and damaged and deeply hurt that what they need most from us is love and kindness and caring to help them feel whole again. The most important difference in my life before the walk-in experience and afterwards was love. I started to love my divine self and accept that I am a child of God. I am that I am. I am worthy and I am deserving to be that radiant reflection of God's source. I am enough. I now demonstrate to others the secret of alchemy and loving themselves. In fact, the very foundation of my Angel Healing House practice is love of self. Because once you love yourself, your divine, eternal nature, everything else will flow in your life. In this third part of my presentation, I'd like to take everyone on a short trip to where I come from, to my home in the 12th dimension, the angelic realm, to experience the energies of the crystalline healing temple where my angelic family and I take clients during their Angel Healing House healing sessions to help them remember their divine eternal natures. To begin this journey, everyone, please close your eyes and put your hands on your chest. And I want you to pick up the beating of your beautiful heart. Our hearts do so much for us, and we give it so very little recognition. So go within and silently thank your heart for all that it does, and let that gratitude soften throughout your body like melted butter. Feel that gratitude coursing through every part of you. And in the vicinity of your heart, you notice your sacred breath, your body's glorious mechanism to keep you breathing. Just like our hearts, we take no notice of our breath. We notice when we stop breathing, but we take no notice of it. So we would like you to go within and in humble gratitude and appreciation, thank your lungs for keeping you alive and melt into that feeling of appreciation. With your eyes closed, I want you to imagine that off in the distance, you suddenly see a pinprick of white, luminescent light. And the more you look at it, the more it moves closer and closer to you, increasing in brightness. And suddenly this illumination is all around you, and it's beaming onto your face. On your next in-breath, I want you to visualize yourself breathing in the white light and visualize itself coursing through every part of you, and you're lightening, feeling lighter, peaceful, and calm. As your eyes adjust to this immense light, you now see an angel walking towards you that has come to accompany you on your journey to our home in the 12th dimension of the angelic realm. They lovingly reach out their hand to you, and you take their hand knowing that you'll be completely safe and protected. And when you touch hands, your heart begins to meld with their love, their compassion, and their kindness. This brings a feeling of bliss, a feeling like you are finally home. Your angel points to the heavens and asks you to look up. You clearly see a materializing, beautiful pyramid healing temple that's made out of crystals. The shimmering, shiny, glistening energies of the crystals are seen as intersecting rainbows of lights, dancing and skipping around the temple. These high frequencies of light touch your soul and help you remember that you were also created from these high elevated light, and you start to feel lighter, and you rise with your angel to the temple. Standing outside the temple, you hear the most beautiful chorus of angels singing in the angelic language of light, and it makes your soul soar even higher. Quietly walking into the healing temple, you see that inside is shaped like an amphitheater with seats rising up to the top, and it's packed with angels sitting there who are sitting and singing in the holy language of love, comfort, and healing. There on the floor in the middle of the healing temple is a bed, beautifully dressed in pure white linen, surrounded by beautiful clear quartz crystals, loving rose quartz crystals, healing selenite, and protective, powerful amethysts. Your angel invites you to lie down on this healing bed and receive the love and the healing from the angels in the temple, whose only purpose is to love you, to restore you to perfect health and clarity. Now, as you lie down on the bed and listen to the angels' chorus, you feel their love. You feel yourself lifting, levitating, and releasing anything that is not of your highest divine eternal birthright. This love is all pervasive, and it brings tears of joy, just as your energies attune to the feeling of being whole, complete, loved, cherished, and adored. As you look up toward the rainbow energies, which are swirling around the pinnacle of the pyramid, you sense that everything that you've ever experienced has brought you to this place of coming home to be who you authentically are. Breathe in the deep love. Breathe in the deep wisdom. Breathe in the feeling of just being divine. You suddenly hear a faint sound of clapping arising from the angels in the temple as they are applauding you for all the lessons you've learned and the wisdom that you've remembered and shared with others. Your angel then appears by the bed and reaches their hand out to you to take you back to the earth plane, saying thank you and goodbye to the many angels. You walk outside of the healing temple, And you can see Mother Earth way, way off in the distance. And as you and your angel put your focus on returning to Mother Earth, she is drawn closer and closer to you, and you pick up the beating of Mother Earth's heart. You feel her physical embrace, and you now pick up the beating of your own heart. Move your head from side to side. Wiggle your fingers and your toes and your feet. Feel yourself grounding back into this human form. Everyone take a deep breath in. Gently breathe that out. Take another breath in. And when you blow it out, open your eyes and welcome back. To conclude my presentation today, I'd like to share an absolutely beautiful poem by the poet Leonard Milgram that reminds each and every one of us that no matter who we are and what we have achieved, what we've acquired, no matter what we've done, we each have the ancient wisdom to help us along our remarkable chosen journeys. This poem is entitled, "The Wisdom God Placed in Your Soul." Whenever you stumble or falter or fumble or fail to advance to your goal, take a moment in prayer and see past the despair to the wisdom God placed in your soul. When you're cut and confused and your ego is bruised and you feel that you're out of control, yet this feeling's not true. There's a you within you. It's the wisdom God placed in your soul. There are times you're so low, there seems no place to go. Still, there's one place you always can stroll. When there's nowhere to hide, just go inside to the wisdom God placed in your soul. In the silence, you'll find peace, beyond peace of mind, the courage to make yourself whole. It's a counsel unique that you don't have to seek. It's the wisdom God placed in your soul. Only few come to know that gratuitous glow from the knowledge of life's earthly role. Yet we all get to try to decipher the why in the wisdom God placed in our souls. Thank you so much, everyone. To contact me, you can always call me at Angel Healing House Healing Practice, and that number is 831-277-3716. Remember, it's Pacific Standard Time, as we're in beautiful Santa Monica, California, or you can visit my website, which is angelhealinghouse.com. I love you all. Thank you so much.
So much. Thank you. We've had some wonderful, wonderful comments. Everyone they're just, wow, that's beautiful. Thank you. I think you've really touched up a lot of people. I want to see now, are there any questions that you guys would like to ask? If you would go ahead and let me check the Q&A. No, so if you could go ahead and put your comments in the chat. And a lot of people are saying they're trying their best to be physically and mentally healthy. Here we go. Oh, it says like angelic cotton candy. That's cute.
That is cute.
Did your twin flame know that you were an angel when you met?
We met on that Saturday night. The next day at 12 o'clock, I said to him, "What are you doing the next day?" I was very forward. And he said, "Well, I'm going to church in the morning. I have to work in the afternoon, but I don't feel like doing any of that. I feel like seeing you." So it was on the Sunday. And on the Monday, we were still together. And on the Monday, I handed him the book, the little book by Doreen Virtue, Starseeds, Walk-ins, Wisdom. And on the front cover, I told him everything about me. I told him where I'd come from. I said, "This is a divine gift from the heavens for you." And I said, "Open to receive it." And that was it. I told him where I was from, everything. And after the third day, he wanted to ask to marry me, but he stopped himself, and because the head took over the heart, and he said, "You only met this woman 3 days ago. You can't do this." And people ask him, "What's the difference between 5 days and 3 days?" He said on the 5th day, he felt as if the hand of God was on his back, pushing him forward, saying, "Just ask her and everything will work out." So I told him everything within 24 hours of meeting him.
Awesome. Okay. Oh, people are wondering with the poem that you just read, could you repeat the name so that people could look that up? Or is that located on your website or in your book?
No, actually, it's the former soul, my dad's poetry, and he published one book of poetry. Look up Leonard, Leonard, and the last name is Milgram, Milgraum. And he was an extraordinary metaphysician. He was more out of the world than he was in it. And his wisdom speaks to so many people. So yeah, just type in his name. His book actually comes up on Amazon.
Okay, here's another question. All seems to be about diet. Can you talk a little bit more about diet and the clean eating?
Yes, absolutely. When we were in third dimension, we could eat artificial coloring, flavoring, preservatives, all of those things, and it wouldn't matter to us. But the walk-in has a double whammy against them. Not only is the frequency rising on the planet, which makes it very difficult then to eat certain things. Our diets have changed tremendously, but the walk-ins bring in a high dimensional frequency. And if you're going to keep eating the same diet that the walk-in, that the walk-out had, then this is going to diminish your energies, and it's going to and if you have any illnesses, it's going to keep you sick. It's going to keep perpetuating dis-ease within the body. So, and this doesn't have to do with eating meat or not eating meat. This has to do, because if you're going to eat meat, make sure that it doesn't have the steroids and the hormones and all of that. Everyone is an individual, and what is best for one is not best for another. There is no blanket statements, but I can tell you all of those Food and Drug Administration toxins that they say are okay to be put in foods, your high vibrational walk-in self will read that as poison. So become a food detective. Look at the back of things. And if it contains it, it contains poison, and your body will read it as poison now. So filtered water, organics, make sure you have chlorophyll, because you have become that high frequency, just like your plants and your trees and your flowers, and this will help you to thrive. And the higher frequency you are, the more energy you'll have to get on with your mission.
Awesome. Thank you. And let me check over here.
Another thing, Sheila, is I want everybody not to ask for their twin flame. please do not do this. I knew that my twin flame was on the earth plane and that we would come together. I knew this, but in the majority of cases, the earth energies have not been high enough to support twin flames coming together. And that's why in the majority of cases, your twin is on the other side, is across the veil, because they can help you better. But that does not mean that you can't, and I help clients to energetically connect with their twin flame across the veil so that they can help you have a beloved, beautiful soulmate relationship here in human form. Take that label out of it, because people say, well, if my twin flame's not here, then I can't have a beautiful, loving relationship on the earth plane. So, and also, if you ask for your twin flame, it means that you will give up your will, because the twin flame relationship is always with a creator, God, source, the triad, and you go where God tells you to do, with what projects to work on. And so your will does not become your own. You live for that mission to marry one of the twins' gifts and talents with the other, and then God is creating that steering wheel to steer the twins. So not everybody is, willing to give up that free will to be in that twin flame relationship.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being with us. And
You're
you're going to
welcome.
join us on the panel, right?
I absolutely will.